dance? What's your name?
Sparkle.
She's still a child.
You should come and audition.
Come have a good time, I fi drop it low. No need for rush now.
You call this a job?
You can lead now, come and show the way. With it, I jump up, party till late.
Sparkle, thanks for coming, eh? Leave my room. I love this.
You see me dancer?
Yo, Skinny wants us to be in his next music video. What? Sparkle, do you have any idea what you're getting yourself into?
And action!
We are the party, hey, with a heart and a mind as one. Hey, let's make this some real thing.
What you doing?
Dancing like a little drummette.
I tried my best.
Hello and welcome to the 206 podcast. My name is Mark. I'm coming to you from Seattle, Washington, and this is the Changing Directions interview series. Joining me today is Maya Cozier, director of She Paradise. Maya, welcome to the 206.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for being here. Now, this is your first feature-length film, so let's start with how the idea began for this movie and the development process from script to short film and then to the feature film as well.
Yeah, so this film actually began with a conversation between myself and Melina Brown. We both graduated from film school around the same time in New York, and I'm born and raised in Trinidad. Melina is of Jamaican parentage, even though she was raised in Florida. And we both just felt like we wanted to tell stories set in the Caribbean region, especially from a woman's point of view. Right. And so we just started talking about, possible ideas, warming up to collaborate. And I expressed to her my past as a dancer and a model and wanting to tell a coming of age story from that world. And so when I graduated, I returned home to Trinidad. And I started interviewing some of the dancers that I knew when I was actively dancing, and co-writing the script with Melina while she was still in New York. And we did that for about a year. We got a first draft of a screenplay. And then we had to decide, okay, how are we going to get this film made? I decided to shoot a short from a few of the scenes in the feature and use that short to get people excited about the film. So it started as a screenplay, then it went, and then it became a short, and then the short allowed us to win a grant, a small grant in Trinidad, which meant we were greenlit to go and shoot the feature film. Yeah.
No, that's great. It sounds like you had a good process there. Now, as you mentioned, She Paradise is a coming of age story. Although when I watched it, I would say it's not the type we typically see at the movies. And it's also, and I think you mentioned as well, it's 100% a female centered story. So why was it important for you to tell this particular story, based in the Caribbean and about this particular girl?
Yeah, I'm curious to know why it's not the type that you see in the movies.
Well,
so that I the question better.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it doesn't have that typical kind of Hollywood kind of style and happy endings and that type of stuff.
Right.
So it's a very unique story in a unique setting, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely shied away from a fairy tale ending for this. And I agree. I don't think a Hollywood happy ending would have served the story well either. The ending is a bit open, but it's intentionally open because it always leaves everyone with a lot of questions, which then sparks a really interesting debates about what's happening, what's going to happen next.
Right.
But regardless of what may feel unresolved in Sparkle's story, I think it was important that the audience feels like she's walking away changed, but also changed in that she doesn't have to rely on anyone but herself in that moment.
Right.
She doesn't even have to rely on the sisterhood, and she walks away with this newfound autonomy. So I agree that her coming of age arc can almost, mirror a fairy tale. There's a very deceptive Prince Charming.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
There's all the elements, but I think it's important for us to bring it back to real life, and to what actually does happen. So that we tell a story that feels honest, but also closer, I think, to what it really does feel like to come of age as a young woman. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Now, I've never been to the Caribbean myself, but the movie to me also felt very authentically Caribbean, I guess is what I'll say, if that makes sense. I mean, the music, the dancing, the language. So was that something you were really mindful of during the creative process for putting together this movie?
The authenticity is something that I was not mindful of. I think it was just a natural end result of making a film about a world that I knew and that I grew up in. I think, so often filmmakers go out into communities and worlds and impose their own ideas and their own observations, and they're usually coming from an outsider's perspective.
Right.
And so when a world is very close to you, authenticity isn't even a concern. It's not something you're thinking of. I think it's just like the choices you make are rooted in what really happens, or what this should feel like, or look like. So I do think, yeah, and I really appreciate that authenticity reads to the viewers, because I think that's really important.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Now, what was the biggest challenge for you over the course of making the movie?
There were a lot of challenges because it was shot on a micro budget in Trinidad, and in the Caribbean, we I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, but we don't really have, especially like in the West Indies and the English speaking Caribbean, like we don't really have a thriving film industry. And so a lot of filmmakers none of the films are coming out of a studio system. Filmmakers are defining their style and their voice and using whatever resources that they have available to them.
Right.
And so, there were a lot of challenges, budget wise. There were a lot of challenges just, in terms of getting the things that we needed to shoot and to make the film. But I would say, though, that one of the things that really kept the process going was everyone having an open mind around the filmmaking process. Sure. And allowing the environment to inform us and to just have this kind of fluidity and flexibility as we were shooting. And so that mindset made it possible for us to continue to shoot and, to make it happen.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, one of the things that really stood out to me was Onessa Nestor's performance as Sparkle. And from what I read up a little bit about her and the movie, and she hadn't actually acted before. So how did you find her? And did you notice something in her right away when you did find her?
Yeah, I noticed something in her right away. I had a very unconventional casting process. I had a casting call, and luckily Onessa showed up. But some of the other actors I found through Instagram, or Shan was somebody that I went to high school with and actually danced with at some point. So it was just kind of a mix in a way that we found people. But Onessa showed up, and I was just immediately convinced by her. And I remember the first day on set when we shot the short and I saw her on camera, I got, so excited because she just has this face that pulls you in, and this energy that, feels so natural. And she just brought so much life to the character on page in a way that felt right. So yeah, I was just really lucky that she decided to show up. And she grew, I feel like she grew so much from the shorts to the feature, which was also exciting because we were both growing simultaneously. I felt like I was growing as a director, and she also had so much growth through the whole process.
Oh, that's great. So you saw a big difference in her performance for the short compared to the feature version?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Now, once you started getting the movie out into film festivals, what has that experience been like for you? Like seeing the audience's reactions, and then I'm not sure, like, did you have like virtual only festivals, and then now starting with some of the more in-person type screenings? Like, what has that whole experience been like for you?
Yeah. The honest answer is that a lot of the excitement was sort of dwindled because the film got released during the pandemic.
Right.
So it hasn't really had an audience, especially a Caribbean audience, screening yet. So I think my hope is sometime in the near future to screen it in Trinidad, to screen the final cut in Trinidad. But Trinidad also right now is we were hit really hard by everything, so we still have a lot of really strict curfews. Beaches are closed. So my dream at some point is to really like get that audience reaction and that energy, but it hasn't happened yet.
Wow. Well, definitely something to look forward to then.
Yeah.
So looking back on this whole process, what is the number one thing that gives you a feeling of gratitude about making this movie?
Yeah, I think it was just I felt a lot of gratitude by the community experience, and especially from the friendships formed from making this. We made this with a very small crew. We're all in a WhatsApp group together, and the actors too, and it's like it's almost like a family. And I remember when the trailer came out, I sent it, and everybody was just like, oh my god, we did this. And at the time, when we were on set, we never really thought about where it would go, who would see it, what festivals it would get into. We were just like, oh well, we're here in Trinidad and making a movie with whatever resources we have.
Right.
And so I think, that kind of I think also too, because it was just such a passion project that really relied on our drive to make a movie, it meant that, we got close. Everybody got close, and those are kind of like, the set was fun, at least, even if it was a stressful set because of resources, it was a fun set.
Right.
And I think we've all kind of stayed in touch since then, and those memories are memories that I think will last for a long. They're great memories. So I think that was like one of the most rewarding experiences, just the collaboration, between everyone.
No, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that sense of community, because I think that's probably one of the most important things, is building those relationships over the course of a project like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, Maya, we're out of time. So thank you so much for speaking with me about your movie. And I wish you all the best in the future. And I hope everybody gets to see this movie soon.
Thank you. All the best.
My name is
Bye.
Mark. This is Maya Cozier. Her movie is She Paradise, and this is the Changing Directions Filmmaker Interview Series. All interviews and movie reviews are available on 206.com, including my review of She Paradise. Thank you so much. Be safe and see you next time.